Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of a leader who was busy fighting enemies at the city gates, only to find out that the real war, the more dangerous one, was actually happening right behind him. Let's get into it.
All right, so picture this. The scene is ancient Jerusalem. A leader, Nehemiah, has this absolutely monumental task in front of him. He has to rebuild the city's destroyed walls. This isn't just a construction project, It's about security, it's about identity, and it's a huge job, already facing some serious opposition from enemies outside the city.
But here's the twist. Just as the work is getting started, Nehemiah realizes that the guys on the outside, they aren't his biggest problem. Nope. The most dangerous threat is actually erupting from inside his very own community.
And let's be clear, the external opposition was no joke. Nehemiah was already dealing with nonstop ridicule, threats, and sabotage from these neighboring rulers who absolutely did not want to see Jerusalem get back on its feet. But, he was handling it. He had a plan for that.
But then, something else happens. A great outcry, as the text calls it, comes from his own people. So while Nehemiah is totally focused on the enemy at the gates, this internal crisis of injustice is basically tearing his community apart from the inside out.
And this wasn't a simple problem. It was affecting 4 different groups of people. First, you had the poorest folks, the landless, who couldn't even get grain to survive. Then you had property owners who were mortgaging their fields, their homes, everything just to feed their families. Others were getting trapped in these crazy debt cycles to pay the king's tax. And worst of all, you had the wealthy elites, the insiders, preying on their own people, charging insane interest rates and seizing their land and even their children as payment.
And if you want to know just how desperate things got, listen to this quote. People are saying, "We are forcing our sons and our daughters to be slaves." Can you imagine? Parents having to choose between watching their families starve or selling their own kids into servitude. This was way beyond an economic downturn. This was a complete moral breakdown.
So how does Nehemiah react to all this? Not with some calculated political maneuver. No, he reacts with pure, raw emotion. In his own words, he was very angry. And that brings up a really fascinating question, right? Is it okay for a leader to be angry? Can you get mad and still lead effectively? Well, the story here suggests that it really depends on what kind of anger we're talking about.
See, the source material makes this really critical distinction. On one hand, you've got selfish anger. That's all about me. My ego got bruised, I've been inconvenienced. But then there's righteous anger. And that's what Nehemiah felt. It's an anger that burns, not for yourself, but on behalf of other people who are being crushed by injustice. It's a passion for things to be made right.
And for Nehemiah, that righteous anger wasn't just a feeling, it was fuel. It drove him to act, and fast. He takes these immediate, decisive steps. He publicly confronts the wealthy nobles. He demands they stop the predatory lending. And then, the most important part, he commands them to give it all back. The land, the vineyards, the houses, everything.
So just as Nehemiah manages to put out this fire inside the city, guess who's back? Yep, the external enemies. They see he's distracted and they think, this is it. This is our moment to take him down for good.
Their plan basically escalates in 3 stages. First, they try to lure him into a trap, a fake meeting on neutral ground. When he doesn't fall for it, they switch to slander, a full-on campaign to destroy his reputation. And when that doesn't work, they pull out the last resort, a spiritual threat, trying to use fear to get him to compromise.
Now, this slander wasn't just some rumor whispered in a corner. It came in an open letter for literally everyone to see. And the accusations were explosive. They were designed to paint him as a traitor to the Persian king. They're saying, you're planning a rebellion. You want to be king. You've even hired your own prophets to back you up.
So the final plot is this prophet for hire who tells Nehemiah his life is in danger and he needs to go hide in the temple. Now, for a layman like him, that was actually forbidden. But Nehemiah's response, it just reveals his character. He says, "Should such a man as I run away? I will not go in." He absolutely refused to let fear make him sin or abandon his people.
And this right here really gets to the core of Nehemiah's leadership. The reason he could confront injustice and stand firm against his enemies is because his own life was a model of integrity. He walked the walk.
Look at this. As governor, Nehemiah was legally entitled to a pretty hefty salary and food allowance paid for by the people. But he refused to take it. He saw how much everyone was struggling and decided he would not add to their burden. He put his people's well-being ahead of his own rights.
The source material draws this incredibly powerful contrast. On one side, you have the selfless leader, Nehemiah, living simply, refusing his pay, and even feeding 150 officials out of his own pocket. And on the other side, you have the selfish dictator, living it up with a gold-inlaid swimming pool while his people are literally starving in food lines. That contrast tells you everything you need to know about what kind of leader Nehemiah was.
So after surviving attacks from within and attacks from without, after modeling this kind of selfless leadership, what was the final result? What happened with the great work?
The wall was finished. And get this, it was finished in a stunningly short amount of time, just 52 days. Think about that. Despite all the opposition, all the internal drama, all the external plots, the mission got done at a miraculous speed.
And here's the ultimate validation. Even his enemies, the very people who tried everything to stop him, they looked at that finished wall and they had to admit it. They were demoralized, the text says, because they knew this wasn't just a human achievement. They saw that God must have been in it.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Nehemiah's story really shows that sometimes the hardest battle isn't with the obvious enemy shouting from a distance. Sometimes it's with the subtle injustice, the bad advice, and the corruption coming from the people who are standing right next to you.